Every dream you hold, every opportunity you've missed, and every breakthrough you never reached, all trace back to a single force you rarely confront: fear. Not the loud kind, but the quiet, invisible fear that quietly shapes your choices, limits your potential, and convinces you to settle for a life far smaller than the one you were meant to live. And it is remarkable, isn't it, how such a small, unspoken force can guide so much of a person's life. You don't announce it. You don't write it down. You don't discuss it around the dinner table. Yet it carves the boundaries of your days with a precision sharper than any blade. It moves silently, like a shadow beside every decision. The job you never pursued, the conversation you avoided, the talent you buried, the path you talked yourself out of before you ever took the first step. Fear rarely storms the front door. It slips in quietly, almost politely. It shows up as hesitation, a second thought, an inner tightening you can't quite describe. And because it never introduces itself, you mistake its voice for your own. Its cautions sound reasonable. Its doubts sound responsible. Its limits sound practical. So you follow them, believing you're choosing safety, when in truth, you're choosing confinement. Sit with that for a moment. How many of the directions your life has taken were chosen freely? And how many were the result of something inside you whispering, maybe not, maybe later, maybe someone else? How many ideas died in the cradle because something subtle inside you suggested they weren't for you? How much of your potential has been shaped not by what you desire, but by what you fear? You see, we often imagine fear as a dramatic creature, something that leaps out in moments of danger. But the fear that truly governs a person's life is gentler, quieter, almost polite. It hides beneath your routines. It disguises itself as caution. It presents itself as logic. And as the years pass, you start adjusting yourself around it without even noticing. You build your habits around avoiding it. You choose people, environments, and ambitions that feel small enough to keep it calm. And little by little, your world shrinks. Not because you lack ability, not because you lack desire, but because the fear you never confronted slowly became the architect of your days. It shaped the ceilings you never broke through. It placed fences around the opportunities you once hoped were yours, and without realizing it, you handed it the blueprint for your life. Fear doesn't need to roar to control you. It only needs you to stay silent. It only needs you to accept the small discomforts it sends, those tiny doubts, those subtle hesitations, and treat them as warnings rather than signals. Signals of what? That you are standing at the edge of something that could grow you, stretch you, challenge you, and ultimately transform you. So I want to invite you into a question, one that might unsettle you just enough to wake you up. What would your life look like if fear had never whispered in your ear? Not in dramatic moments, but in the quiet, everyday crossroads where your future was quietly being shaped. What conversations would you have started? What gifts would you have developed? What path would you have dared to walk? This is not a question designed to haunt you, but to open you. Because before we explore how to overcome fear, we must first understand how thoroughly it has woven itself into the fabric of our choices. How fear shapes the choices you make every single day. If you examine your life with an honest eye, you'll notice something subtle. The choices that shaped your days were rarely forced upon you. They were chosen, sometimes carefully, sometimes casually, but chosen nonetheless. Yet in the quiet corners of each choice, fear was present, nudging your hand just enough to alter the direction. And fear never shoves. It guides with the softest pressure. You're invited to speak up, and something inside says, "Stay quiet a little longer." You think of trying something new, and a whisper reminds you of how comfortable you are where you stand. You feel a pull toward a dream, and suddenly an invisible weight settles on your shoulders, suggesting that perhaps the dream can wait until a more convenient time. A man once told me he knew exactly what he wanted from life. He could see it clearly, almost touch it, yet each morning he stepped into a routine that held none of it. Why? Because the moment he thought about changing course, a small uneasiness rose in him. Not panic, just a tightening, a slight flutter of uncertainty, and he mistook that feeling for a warning instead of what it truly was, a sign that he was standing at the entrance of something larger than his present self. Fear appears in these tiny, everyday crossroads. It doesn't announce itself. It simply leans your choices ever so slightly toward safety, toward familiarity, toward the known, and over the span of years, those small leanings amount to a direction, one that often leads you far away from the life you intended to build. You might think your decisions are based on reason, yet many of them are shaped by invisible guardrails you never placed consciously. Somewhere long ago, fear tapped you on the shoulder during a difficult moment, and ever since, you've walked around that memory as though it were a wall. Some people spend their entire lives rearranging themselves to avoid a sensation that lasts only seconds, the discomfort of uncertainty. They choose the same patterns, speak the same words, think the same thoughts, not because these things satisfy them, but because they don't awaken that old familiar tension inside. It's astonishing how much a person will sacrifice to avoid a moment of emotional unease. And perhaps the most striking part is this: fear doesn't stop you with force, it stops you with questions. Are you sure? What if this doesn't work? What if you're not ready? What if you're wrong? Not threats, just doubts. Doubts delivered with such gentleness that you accept them as your own thinking. Imagine what might shift if, for even a single day, you moved through your choices without that subtle influence. If you did the thing you quietly avoid, if you made the call, if you expressed the idea, if you allowed yourself to want something openly and acted on that wanting without rehearsing all the ways it might go wrong. You would begin to reclaim territory within your own life that has gone unchallenged for years, because fear shapes your choices only when you treat its presence as a command rather than what it truly is, a guest in the room, not the owner of the house. The mindset shift that helps you use fear as direction instead of resistance. There comes a point in a person's life when they begin to wonder whether fear has been mislabeled. We spend years treating it as a barrier, a signal to turn back, a sign that we're headed somewhere we don't belong. Yet if you look closely, closer than comfort usually allows, you'll notice something peculiar. Fear almost always appears in front of the things that matter most. It doesn't rise when you're drifting through routines. It doesn't stir when you remain within old limits. It shows itself precisely at the doorway of the experiences that would stretch you, challenge you, or change you. And because we've been taught to move away from that sensation, we rarely notice that fear is pointing, not pushing. A man once described fear to me as a lantern in the dark. It doesn't say stop, he said. It simply says, pay attention. Something important is ahead. At the time, I didn't fully understand him. But over the years, as I watched people step toward their greatest aspirations, I saw the truth of it. Their fear didn't grow louder when they drifted from their purpose. It grew louder whenever they stood near it. And this is where the shift begins. Instead of interpreting fear as resistance, you begin to see it as direction, a compass of sorts, not one that points north, but one that points toward growth. Think back on your own life. The moments you were most afraid to step into were often the ones that held the most profound meaning. The conversation you dreaded ended up clearing years of misunderstanding. The opportunity you almost declined became the turning point of your career. The challenge you resisted revealed a strength you didn't know you had. Fear wasn't warning you away, it was signaling that you were near the edge of something valuable. Now, to use fear as direction, you must practice something unusual: curiosity. Instead of shrinking back, you pause and ask, why does this matter to me? What lies on the other side of this feeling? You begin to notice that fear doesn't arise because you are weak, but because the thing before you has weight. It carries significance. It touches a part of you that longs for expansion. When you move toward fear instead of away from it, the sensation rarely lasts. It dissolves the moment you step forward, as though it were only a threshold to be crossed, not an enemy to be defeated. Just imagine the shift this creates in your daily life. Instead of asking, "How do I avoid discomfort?" you start asking, "Where is it pointing me?" Instead of thinking, "I shouldn't feel this uneasy," you think, "This unease is a sign I'm close to something meaningful." The world looks different through that lens. Doors you once closed begin to open. Conversations you avoided become invitations, and choices you postponed transform into stepping stones. Your life stops shrinking and begins expanding, not because fear disappears, but because you stop treating it as the voice of limitation and begin treating it as the signal of possibility. Fear, when understood correctly, becomes less of a warning and more of a guide that leads you toward the very life you once believed was out of reach. Why every major breakthrough requires discomfort. If you walk through any chapter of a person's growth, no matter the era, no matter the circumstance, you will find a moment where comfort was no longer an option. Not because comfort is wrong, but because it cannot carry you into the next version of yourself. Breakthroughs are born in a different climate. They require tension, uncertainty, even a measure of doubt. They ask something of you that your current self has not yet proven capable of offering, and this is where discomfort enters. Discomfort is often misunderstood. People treat it as a sign that something is going wrong. They think, "If this feels uneasy, if this stirs something unsettled in me, then perhaps I should step back." But discomfort is not a signal of danger. It is the sensation of growth beginning. It is the mind and spirit stretching into unfamiliar territory. Consider a simple truth. Anything that expands must first push against something. A muscle strengthens by resisting tension. A tree grows by breaking through the soil. Even dawn arrives by pressing against the darkness before it. So it is with you. Every meaningful breakthrough in your life required you to stand in a place where certainty was absent. A conversation that trembled in your voice. A decision that felt larger than your confidence. A moment when your hands were unsteady, not because you lacked strength, but because you were touching the edges of who you were becoming. People often believe they should feel ready before they step forward, yet readiness is rarely present at the start. Readiness is something you discover only after you've begun. The discomfort you feel isn't a sign that you're unprepared, it's the signal that you're stepping beyond the boundaries that once held you. And this is something worth reflecting on. Every comfort you cling to today was once unfamiliar. Once upon a time, it carried its own discomfort. You learned it, grew into it, and eventually it became ordinary. And now, to reach anything greater, you must pass through that same narrow doorway again, one framed by uncertainty on one side and possibility on the other. Discomfort is the toll you pay for transformation. It doesn't arrive to punish you. It arrives to prepare you. It strengthens your resolve. It sharpens your awareness. It reveals what you care about deeply enough to endure unease. If you shy away from discomfort, you don't avoid growth. You postpone it. You delay the version of yourself that is waiting on the other side of that moment. Think of those times in your life when you felt truly alive. They weren't the tranquil, predictable days. They were the moments you stepped into something untested, unsure, and undeniably meaningful. Your heart beat faster, your senses heightened, not because you were in danger, but because you were awakening. Discomfort is the proof that you are near a breakthrough, not after the fear, not beyond the fear, right in the very space where fear meets possibility. And those who learn to stay in that space just long enough to cross its threshold discover that the life they sought was never waiting in their comfort at all. It was waiting in their courage. How confronting fear unlocks strengths you never knew you had. There is a remarkable thing that happens when a person finally stops circling their fear and walks straight into it. Not recklessly, not with bravado, but with a quiet resolve. The moment you do, something shifts, subtly at first, then profoundly. You begin to discover capacities that were never visible from a distance. Fear has a way of blocking your view of yourself. It stands like a tall figure in the doorway, casting a shadow across your abilities, and as long as you stay on the safe side of that shadow, you never truly see what you're capable of. But the moment you step toward it, the moment you confront it, the shadow moves behind you, and your strengths begin to emerge where the darkness once stood. People often believe they need confidence before they act. Yet confidence is not the fuel of action. It is the result of action. Strength is the same. It does not arrive ahead of time. It is revealed only when you take a step you once thought was beyond you. You may have noticed this in your own life. A challenge that once felt impossible eventually became something you navigated with clarity. And you didn't gain that strength by thinking about it. You gained it by walking into the very thing that intimidated you. The courage you summoned became ability. The tension you endured became resilience. The uncertainty you weathered became wisdom. Fear, when confronted, transforms from an obstacle into a teacher. It teaches you that your endurance runs deeper than you imagined. It shows you that your mind can adapt more quickly than you believed. It reveals that your spirit is far more capable than the quiet doubts you once listened to. You realize, often with surprise, that you are not the fragile creature fear convinced you to be. You are something sturdier, steadier, more resourceful. The strength you unlock is rarely loud. It does not arrive in the form of triumph or applause. It arrives in the way you carry yourself afterward, more grounded, more certain, more willing to meet the next unknown. You begin to trust yourself in a way that cannot be taught by comfort or theory. It can only be earned through experience. When you confront fear, you don't just overcome a single obstacle, you alter your relationship with yourself. You prove to your own mind that you are capable of standing in uncertainty without collapsing, and once you've proven that even once, the world opens in ways it never did before. Paths you once dismissed become possible. Opportunities you thought were for others suddenly belong to you. Challenges that once stirred dread now awaken purpose, because now you know something essential. The fear you feared was not the limit of your strength. It was the threshold of it. And each time you step through that threshold, you become a little more than you were before. Not because the world changed, but because you did. A new layer of ability unfolds, a deeper confidence takes root, a clearer sense of direction appears. This is why confronting fear is not merely an act of bravery, it is an act of self-discovery, a revelation waiting on the far side of hesitation. And once a person experiences that revelation, even once they stop asking, "What if I fail?" and begin asking, "What might I become?" So, remember this. Your life is not shaped by the moments you felt certain, but by the moments you chose to move despite the tremble in your chest. Fear has followed you for years, not to diminish you, but to point you toward the very places where your strength has been waiting, patient and untouched. There comes a time when a person must stop negotiating with their doubts and step forward simply because their future deserves it. Not tomorrow, not when conditions improve, but now, while the door is still open, while the spark inside you is still alive. Fear will always offer reasons to wait. It will always try to persuade you that another day is better suited for courage. But courage never belongs to another day. It belongs to the moment you feel most uncertain. If you take even one honest step toward the thing you've avoided, you will feel the shift. Not a dramatic one, just a quiet recognition that you are no longer living at the mercy of hesitation. You are choosing your life rather than letting it be chosen for you. So as you walk forward from here, carry this with you. The path you long for is not hidden. It is simply guarded by a feeling you've misinterpreted for far too long. Meet that feeling, move with it, and allow your strength, the strength you've always had, to take its rightful place in your life.